Welcome to the Redvee TV Show, supported by Chapel House for the 2023 season. Once again, joined by Peter this evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having me again. And apologies to the regular viewers who must be getting fed up with seeing my face and listening to my drivel week on week. But I'm sure normal service will be resumed very shortly. But thanks for having me.
On this week's show, Peter, there is only one place to start, and it is this man causing problems. In that we've now got, another prop down. Matty Lees banned for 2 games for the most innocuous of tackles on Joe Greenwood at the weekend. We got a 2-match ban. We appealed it, upheld. We've appealed it again to the operational rules based on us not believing that they've applied the rules correctly, but that's been rejected. So the 2-match ban will stand. Yet the man who turns around in retaliation and elbows him directly in the face gets a pat on the head and well done, carry on. Bizarre.
Yeah, and that's before you mention the Matty English cannonball tackle. And I thought a cannonball tackle was outlawed and it should have a ban applied. Obviously, these are separate incidents to what Matty Lees was banned for. But once again, whatever team you support, it does highlight the inconsistency in the match review panel. Every supporter of every team will have a story to tell about how they had a player banned or an opposition player not banned for tackling one of their players. And when the sport unites, against a ban or a non-ban, and this could apply to rugby union as well this week with a certain Wiganer, then it shows that something's very, very wrong with the processes, and perhaps the people involved are perhaps not up to the job.
Yeah, obviously the Matty English cannonball, it was clear to see he received a yellow card on the field for it. Mark Percival's lucky that he was a couple of inches away from having a knee reconstruction and his season being over, and it seems to have been condoned. Yet they'll pick out a tackle where the man, as Matty Lees, has made a fair attempt to tackle. He's tried to wrap. It looks to me like it starts on the chest and rose up. And the disciplinary have gone off a camera angle 40 metres away. It's not even the clearest of pictures, and slapped the ban on him. And it does feel that we are taking the rough end of the wedge. Certainly after the Morgan Knowles appeal last year. And it doesn't seem to be easing up, does it?
Well, I think they've certainly took umbrage at our stance last October ahead of the grand final, which seems a bit childish of them. Surely, you should follow your own rules, own procedures, and when teams are allowed to appeal as part of the process, our clubs are maybe a bit annoyed, but they don't moan about it that much in the press, or when appeals or bans go against them that they feel are unfair. So the authorities should certainly be big enough to accept that that one was appealed successfully. But in this instance, I mean, again, I've seen it as much as anyone else has seen it. The fact that it's a 2-game ban is probably because Matty's had a few incidents where he's been up before the panel before, so rather that than a 1 game. But it's more the fact that there was nothing given on the field by the referee. And as you say, the fact that Joe Greenwood hasn't received a ban, Matty English hasn't received a ban for these are tackles, particularly Matty English one. That's one that could, as you say, cause serious injury. And with the injury kind of situations that Percy's faced in his career, without being overly dramatic, it could have been a career ender rather than just a season ender. And that's not getting at Matty English per se. I think he's a cracking player. But I think obviously there was a cannonball tackle. He's been sanctioned by a fine, which doesn't exactly send out the strongest of messages. It certainly doesn't send out a consistent message either.
The best one for me was obviously, before we move on, Joe Greenwood got charged with striking, but it was only reckless. It wasn't intentional, even though he's deliberately done it. So maybe the word intentional in the dictionary needs changing. We did ask referee Ian Smith, former referee, about it. He said because it was such a quick reaction, in the heat of the moment, it doesn't go down as intentional. So in that case, rules moving forward, don't go and hit anyone deliberately or high. Just wait till you've been hitting a tackle that you don't like and swing out, and you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, Ian's probably right in what he says. That's how the referees and how the panel would look at it. And obviously, I'm sure you'll join me in commending Ian for his interaction on social media with fans, whether people agree with him, disagree with him. The fact that it takes time to explain the subtleties and the intricacies of decisions and why things are done. It's enlightening. It really is. I find him really great to kind of follow.
Yeah, obviously we don't always agree. Ian doesn't always agree with the MRP. But it's good to always get that insight. Right then, given we are missing Matty Lees, we have amended the 21-man squad, and coming into it, and obviously he'll make his debut if he plays, is Wes Bruins, but it does leave us decidedly light in the path for Friday's game, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, looking at the squad, I think the only change that will happen from last week is obviously James Bell's free from suspension. I think he'll come into the 17 for Matty, and as well alluded to, you've got Sione that can move up to prop, or Morgan Knowles. My own personal view is that I would stick Knowles as one of our props and put Bell at loose forward. I think Knowles could do a Matty Lees and go 80 minutes easy. And you've still got Big Dan, you've still got Louis, and you've still got George Delaney.
I think in previous years, you may have looked to maybe start Louis, but obviously he's in the twilight now. I think he's better making that impact coming off the bench. So I agree with you. I think I'd go with start with George Delaney and Morgan Knowles, and then obviously once they've softened up the KR pack for them, bring Louis and Big Dan Norman onto the field, and go with James Bell in 19. And obviously you could use Sione there as well. Yeah,
thanks. I think I would probably start Sione in the second row with Sam Royal. Probably again bring Batch off the bench. I think I wouldn't want to throw him in too early. I think Well also has alluded to that in his pressers this week, where he's saying I don't want to take a chance that he did with Cyril and suffer the consequences of that. So I think that would be the changes that would make this week. Obviously, there's a couple of younger guys in there, but I think unless you have to, we don't make any changes for the sake of making changes for the rest of the season. Now it's no throwing in youngsters for experience. Every game now, I think, is a must-win. And obviously, Hull KR coming off, a gut-wrenching defeat at Wembley last week. Whether that will kind of harden their resolve to finish in the playoffs, or whether they'll still be licking their wounds come Friday night, I dare say we'll find out. But I don't anticipate it will be easy, but it's a game we should be looking to win, certainly, in front of my fellow Scotsman, Mr. Coote.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, obviously, that well-known Scotsman, Lachlan Coote, is going to be the special guest on Friday night. Players to miss out, Peter, I'd probably go Matty Foster, Lewis Baxter, Wes Bruins, and then is it a toss-up between Ritson and Benison if Benison's fit?
Yeah, I think that's the only other situation where you have to make a decision. It depends. Again, if Benison isn't 100%, don't risk him. That's certainly what I would say. Obviously, T took a knock last week as well, so you've got that to consider. It's probably a toss of the coin, 50-50, whether Wello doesn't want to rush John Benison back, or whether if he's fully fit, raring to go, then if he is, then I would personally slot him into place. But if not, then T's been doing okay, so there's no sense in changing it if we don't have to.
Okay, our 21-man squad, only one change from their 21 that I went down to Wembley last week. Elliot Minicella is suspended, and Jack Walker comes into their 21. You touched on it then, obviously losing at the weekend. I think we'd much rather they would have won and spent the week on the ale. I don't suspect there'll have been much drowning the sorrows, given that they're still fighting for the top 6 place. They beat us quite comfortably at Craven Park when we went up there earlier in the season. They're not going to come and lay down for us, are they?
No, certainly not. I mean, on their day, the Hull KR are one of these teams, I think, it's kind of like Salford, that on their day they can beat anyone but also lose to anyone. they can play Harlem Globetrotter style, throwing it around and just be, the best team to watch. Or they could just, be absolutely awful. And I think that's what makes them dangerous, because we don't know what Hull KR are going to turn up. I think we have to go with the assumption that we've had our day in the sun at Wembley. What we want to do now is try and get to a grand final. They've had a taste of a big match. A couple of years ago, they were one game away from Old Trafford. I think they'll fancy themselves to, if they can finish sixth, perhaps get to a semi-final, because they are dangerous. They've got a lot of good players there. Matt Parcell's been kind of, up and down in his career, but he's had games where he's come on and he's really made an impact. You look at their left edge, Kenny Dowell and Ryan Hall. It's an ageing partnership, but they've still got it. And they've caused a lot of problems to a lot of teams this season. And obviously Mikey Lewis, I don't know if playing fullback last week suited him. I think he's better in the halves, getting on the ball a little bit more, maybe buzzing around, closer to the ruck. Bizarrely didn't do as well with a lot of space, but I think he's one we certainly need to keep our eye on. But if we, do our jobs, be professional, we'll win the game.
Yeah, obviously we've done all we can last week to get back on level terms up at the top of the table. Obviously that game in hand has come round. We've done the job. Level on points with Wigan and Lee now, all on 28. We've got the easier running. I put a poll out on Twitter this week saying how many games did people think we'd win out of the last 6. The vast majority thought we'd win the lot. A few less thought, I think it was we'd win 5. If you want to finish second, I think it's imperative that we win all 6.
Yes, I think I'd said a couple of weeks ago on here that I think the most we could lose would be 1 out of the last 8 or 9. Certainly, if we win 6 out of 6, I believe we'll finish second. I think Wigan have still got to go to Catalan. Obviously, we've got a tricky one at Warrington. I know we make fun of them, but we rarely get it very easy over there. And obviously, our last match, we've got Hull at home, and they might be pushing for playoffs. And before that, we've got the Lee Leopards, who we haven't beaten yet. So that and they will be looking to try and get second place. So there's a heck of a lot to play for. And as well, just remembering as well, we've got Cass and Wakey back-to-back away from home, who will be desperate for points as well. So wherever you turn, there's no game that you can think, well, we should win that one easy. Every opponent has something to play for. Yeah,
if Catalan do beat Wigan, Saints will finish second if they win all 6. That's mathematically certain, obviously, because we'll have the edge over Lee, because we beat Lee in that process as well. So it is all to play for, and a top 2 finish, and then all of a sudden you're a game away from Old Trafford. Just to mention, on Friday night as well, it is the Daniel Anderson round.
Yeah.
Obviously, Daniel's suffered that serious injury over in Australia. He's going through rehab at the moment, and this weekend is the Daniel Anderson round, both in the NRL and Saints. And Saints have got a fair bit planned. James Roby has donated a signed match-worn shirt. And the big one this is obviously St Helens legend James Graham, his 2006 Super League winners ring, his Challenge Cup winners medal, and his 2007 World Club Challenge winners medal, all up for auction. Those are prized possessions that do not come up very often. I expect them to go for a very big price, but just in case people forget to bid, I'm going to put a bid in of all my life savings of about 14 quid.
I was just going to ask what we could club together between us two and Kev Cunningham to have Redvee owning them, but I think we might come up slightly short.
Yeah, that's one hell of a prize. One hell of an auction prize.
That's from the best Saints team that ever has been, in my opinion, as well. So that whoever is successful in winning those, you have a genuine piece of history.
Yes. Obviously, fans on Friday night are encouraged to make donations directly to the Daniel Anderson Fund. So, Friday, if you can visit danielandersonfund.com.au to donate any amount that you can. But if you wish to donate cash, you can do so in the club shop. The players will have Anderson on the back during the warm-ups, which are going to be auctioned off to Saints supporters as well. And as you mentioned earlier, Peter, Lachlan Coote will be in attendance, obviously, formerly of this parish, most recently of Hull KR. I'm sure he will receive a rapturous welcome and thank you from all four sides of the stadium.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of Saints fans were not worried, but thinking, well, we've lost Benny Barber. How's this new guy going to come in? A few people had said, oh, he's not that great and all the rest of it. And then, if anything, that jersey and the whole team improved with him in it. And anyone who was lucky enough to be at Wigan on Good Friday 2019, that sun, absolutely boiling hot all day. And it was one of the best performances of the season. And obviously that whole stand singing "He's the Reason" from minute 1 to minute 80. It was one of my favourite trips to watch Saints. And I think, I hope the whole ground can give a huge rendition of that. I know obviously Regan's not at Saints anymore. And, we're not at top of the league this season, but don't let that get in the way. Just sing it. And and thank Lachlan for some fantastic service at Saints and at KR as well.
Yeah, all right, Peter. Prediction?
I think Saints. I think we'll probably win by. I'm going to say by 16, but probably maybe a couple of scores within the last 10 minutes, just to kind of clinch it. So Saints by 16.
I'm going to go Saints by 7.
7.
It'll be a little bit closer, right? That is us done and dusted. But Peter, before we go, I must mention, what on earth is that calendar behind you? Who is that? That's like the worst calendar ever.
That's the future coach of the winning Rugby World Cup team, Gregor Townsend.
Right.
So yeah, there's a prediction I might not get right. I don't know, but So
put on when you've not got 12 players good enough to fill each month.
Well, we've got different teams. I've got some months. I've got the women's team as well. So, you know me. I like various sports as well. So, it keeps going all year round, doesn't it? Keeps us out of trouble.
Right, Saints Friday night. England World Cup women for you to cheer on Saturday morning. They're close enough for you to celebrate them. Don't worry, Peter.
Well, I watched the Lionesses they were the better team by a distance. The Aussies made a terrible mistake for giving away the second goal and then missed an absolute sitter at less than a minute before the clinching third goal. So they did it to themselves, and best team won. I think it should be a very, very good final, and I wouldn't bet against England winning it. There you go, said
it. Not only will you have a red V on, you'll have a red cross on very soon.
Well, I'll think about that.
Yes. Right. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And there's a very, very special Redvee instant reaction coming up after the game on Friday.
Exciting times.
Exciting times. Tune in for a Redvee special. Catch you soon.